Alright, so while I'm playing Age of Mythology, I'm going to be going through some of the funniest, most awkward, and sometimes completely ridiculous dating stories people have shared on Reddit. And after each story, I'm going to give you my take on what happened. Some of these are hilarious, some are painful, and some genuinely make you wonder how the date even made it that far. Let's get into the first one. And this one happened back before dating apps had turned everyone's profile into a full-on investigation. No FaceTime, no quick video call, not even camera phones, which becomes very important because this guy made one claim before the date that was going to be extremely difficult to explain once they met in person. Here it goes. So this woman gets set up on a blind date. And when she says blind date, she means an actual blind date. This happened before camera phones were really a thing. So there wasn't the normal routine we have now where you exchange photos, stalk each other's Instagram for 15 minutes, and somehow already know where the person went on holiday 3 years ago. They had been texting before the date, but she genuinely did not know exactly what this guy looked like. So naturally, while they're talking, they start exchanging some basic information about themselves. And at some point, the guy tells her that he's 6'2". Now, she's only 5 feet tall, so from her perspective, 6'2" is enormous. That's a 14-inch height difference. She's basically expecting this guy to show up towering over her, and because she has no photo to compare it to, she has absolutely no reason to think he's lying. Why would you? Especially about something the other person is going to discover approximately 3 seconds after meeting you. But anyway, the day of the date arrives. She goes to meet him. And then the guy shows up, and immediately, something is very wrong. Because the 6'2" man she has been talking to is shorter than she is. Remember, she's 5 feet tall. This isn't a situation where the guy said he was 6'2" and actually turned out to be 6 foot. You could maybe imagine somebody rounding up a little. This guy supposedly lost more than a foot somewhere between the text conversation and the date. And honestly, at this point, there are only a few ways you can handle this. You could admit you lied, you could laugh about it, you could awkwardly pretend the conversation never happened and hope she doesn't mention it. But apparently, this guy had another strategy. He accused her of lying about her height, which is incredible, because now she's standing there, presumably thinking, wait, I'm 5 feet tall. You told me you're 6'2". You're shorter than me. And somehow, I'm the one who lied, but he sticks with it. According to him, apparently she must actually be taller than 5 feet. And based on his logic, she'd need to be significantly taller. Because if he's genuinely 6'2" and she's standing above him, then apparently this woman has unknowingly been walking around at over 6'2" her entire life. She just never noticed. At this point, the entire date basically turns into this bizarre argument over reality itself. She knows how tall she is. He knows what he told her. They are physically standing next to each other. There is really no mystery left to solve here. But somehow, it gets even better. Because instead of eventually admitting, all right, fine, maybe I exaggerated a little, this guy decides that her dishonesty is now a deal breaker. The date doesn't even properly continue because he tells her that he can't date a liar. And that's it. The man who apparently added more than a foot to his own height rejects her for lying about her height. She says the entire conversation was one of the most surreal things she'd ever experienced on a date. And honestly, I can understand why. Because there are bad dates, there are awkward dates, and then there are dates where someone attempts to convince you that you have apparently misunderstood your own height for your entire life. Years later, she says she can still laugh about it, and I think that might be the only reasonable response. Story ends. I have so many questions. First of all, 6'2"? If you're going to lie about your height, you have to at least keep the lie somewhere within the boundaries of human eyesight. You cannot tell somebody you're 6'2" when they're 5 feet tall and then show up shorter than them. There's no optical illusion saving you from that. You're not wearing the wrong shoes. The floor isn't uneven. Mercury isn't in retrograde. You're just not 6'2". But honestly, the height isn't even the funniest part. It's the confidence behind the recovery attempt. Because this man was presented with undeniable physical evidence that his story made absolutely no sense, and instead of surrendering, he doubled down. No, no, I'm definitely 6'2". You must be wrong about how tall you are. That's incredible. Imagine applying that logic to anything else. You tell someone you drive a Ferrari, you arrive on a bicycle, and when they ask where the Ferrari is, you go, "Actually, I think you're confused about what a Ferrari looks like." And then you leave because you don't date dishonest people. That's basically what happened here. And look, we're obviously hearing one person's version of the story. Maybe there's some missing detail, but I am struggling to imagine what additional context could solve a height difference of more than a foot. There's not really another side to. I said 6'2" and arrived under 5 feet. And for me, lying about the height would actually be less strange than refusing to admit it afterward. People exaggerate on dating profiles all the time. Height, age, old photos, job titles, whatever. It's not great, but at least I understand the thought process. But once you're standing directly in front of the person, the operation is over. You've been compromised. Abandon mission. Instead, this guy decided to launch a counterattack. And somehow, the best part is that he ended the date. She didn't have to find an excuse. She didn't have to pretend her friend had an emergency. She didn't have to sit through dinner wondering how to leave. He basically lied, exposed his own lie, accused her of lying, decided lying was unacceptable, and removed himself from the situation. Honestly, efficient. Completely ridiculous, but efficient. And if you think accusing your date of lying about her own height is difficult to recover from, the next person manages to destroy their date using mayonnaise. A lot of mayonnaise.